All right, this screencast is going to talk to you about kitchen ratios. So kitchen ratios is when a recipe states that you are going to be using 3 parts of this to 1 part of this. So this is like it's very common when you're making smoothies, vinaigrettes, baking, etc. So we're going to go through a couple different scenarios related to pie dough and pie fillings, all centered around kitchen ratios. So let's get to it. So first off, there's a formula. Obviously, there are 4 steps. You're going to write down your 4 steps in your document. I would write them in your own words, so you can calculate them on your own. So step 1 is you're going to determine the total quantity to be made. So typically, if you have a problem, a word problem, it's going to tell you the total amount that is going to be made of whatever it is you're making. If you are doing it and you have your own recipe, you're obviously going to read the yield. Step number 2, you're going to find the total number of parts in the ratio. Typically, it's going to say in the recipe or it would say in the word problem. Step number 3, you're going to find the amount per part by dividing the total quantity to be made by the total number of parts. All right. And then last but not least, step number 4, you're going to find the amount of each ingredient by multiplying each ingredient by the amount per part. Now, this is probably like, what? You're probably saying that to yourself. It will make more sense when we go through an actual word problem. All right, so here is for cherry pie filling. So you'll be making 10 gallons of pie filling. All right, for every 1 gallon of filling, you need 1 full pound of cherries. Okay, to make 1 gallon of filling, and you need a total of 10 gallons. How many pounds of each of the ingredients should be used for this filling? So to make your cherry pie filling, the ratio is 2 parts cherry, 1 part sugar, 1 part lemon. Now we don't know how much of what to make 10 full gallons, so that's what we're trying to figure out. So step number 1, you are going to take 10, okay, because you need 10 gallons of pie filling, all right? So that's why we got that number 10. You're gonna multiply that by 1 pound because for every gallon that you're making, you need a full pound of cherries. So 10 times 1, and you're going to need a total of 10 pounds of cherries. So that's how we calculated out that amount. Okay. Step number 2, find the total number of parts in the ratio in the word problem. So if it's given, the ratio is 4 parts. So you need 4 total parts, 2 parts cherry, 1 part sugar, 1 part lemon. So you need 4 total parts. Okay. So we're going to take that and use that right now. So step number 3, find the amount per part by dividing the total quantity to be made by the total number of parts. So we are going to make a total of 10 pounds of cherry filling. So we're going to divide that by 4 parts because that is how many total parts we have. So you're going to divide that and you get 2.5 pounds. So 1 part is equivalent to 2.5 pounds. Okay. So next, you're going to find the amount of each ingredient by multiplying each ingredient by the amount per part. So in the case of cherries, you're using 2 parts cherry, so times 2.5 pounds. You use 5.5 pounds of cherries. And then with sugar and lemon juice, it's just 1 part of each. So you're going to multiply each of those separate things by 2.5. So you need 2.5 pounds of sugar, 2.5 pounds of lemon juice. So I hope that makes sense. So if a recipe is written as a ratio, this is how you can calculate how much of each ingredient you're going to be using. All right, now, what if you're in the predicament that the total amount is not provided? All right, so here are the steps to do that. So step number 1, find the total amount per part by dividing the amount that you know by the number of parts it represents. Again, it's going to make more sense when I show you. And step number 2, multiply the amount per part by the number of parts for each of the remaining ingredients. All right, so let's put this to work so it makes sense. All right, so you are working in the cafe and you need to make pie dough. You have 5 pounds of butter. How much flour and liquid should you add to the butter to have the correct ratio for pie dough? The pie dough ratio is 3 parts flour, 2 parts fat, 1 part liquid. Okay, so step number 1, you're going to divide the 5 pounds of butter by the number of parts per fat represented in the ratio because that's what we are provided. So we know we need 5 pounds of butter and you're going to divide by 2 because there are 2 parts of fat in the ratio. So 5 divided by 2, we're going to need 2.5 pounds of fat, okay? Or whatever the fat is that you're using in your pie dough. Now, you're going to multiply by the parts, remember? So we already have fat provided for us. We still need to calculate the flour and the liquid. So for the flour, it's 3. For the liquid, it's 1. So that's exactly what we're going to do. So it gave us 2.5 pounds of fat, okay? So we are going to multiply it by the part. So 3 times 2.5 pounds, because the parts of flour was 3, and we calculated what the part amount was in step 1. So you're going to do 3 times 2.5, so you need 7.5 pounds of flour. We already have the amount of fat. We use that number to get the what to multiply it by, and then we're going to multiply 1 by 2.5 because the part of liquid was 1, and again, the part amount was 2.5, so we need 2.5 pounds of liquid. All right, so I hope that makes sense to you. Hopefully you got that all done. Please submit this to Schoology. If you have any questions, you can ask me when I get back. Thank you so much.